Hello there, good morning, and welcome once again to my little arty corner of YouTube. It's Friday the 28th of January. It's sunny out here in South Wales. It was sunny yesterday and I had to go out and it was just lovely. The sun was quite low in the sky and the roads are damp and the glare was absolutely horrendous. But my Polaroid sunnies helped hugely. Yes, sunglasses in the middle of winter, but it was fantastic. There's a hard frost outside and there's sort of like some mistiness hanging in the air, but it's one of those lovely bright days that you want to feel alive on. So I'm hoping to poppity-doodly out at some point in time today, just to move my body, I suppose. Sorry for the noise there. Let's just get in another piece of paper, because today's Fragments of Your Imagination challenge fragment is based on Naaki by Nadine Roller CZT. And Naaki was a tangle pattern I first came across back in Inktober, and it was an unusual pattern to work with that I ended up doing quite a number of pages in my sketchbook. I wish I'd dug that sketchbook out to show you, but hey ho, perhaps I'll stop the video and go and get it later on. But as a fragment, at first I couldn't see the resemblance between this and the actual tangle pattern, but I can now. And it's really interesting. So I've sat here having my morning cup of tea. Yes, it's tea today. No, I haven't quite finished it yet. But just going through variations and seeing what I could do with this. And I've got a page full already in about 40-45 minutes. So I'll have a look at a couple of these with you, hence why I got another piece of paper out, because I think sort of like my thinking around them could be interesting and perhaps could spark off creativity for you as well. So let's have a look at that. So the original fragment is here, so I'll start by drawing that. I've got another piece of paper. Yep, I've been colouring paper with distress inks. Well, I say again, it's what I usually use. So today's fragment, to start with, is a leaf shape, like so. And if I just shuffle over a little bit, and then it's popping a semicircle or part of a circle, as if it's tucked under the end there. And then you aura this and draw the line down, and you keep repeating that. That is today's fragment. So trying to keep the lines equidistant, although that's a variation I haven't done. And if the sides of the leaf shape are not symmetrical, you'll get more lines on one side than the other, but it looks right, if that makes any sense. This is one I didn't try doing. Let's have a look. I did pop an aura around that for a lot of these. So let's start with one narrow, one wider, and another narrow one. So one and narrow, and one wider and narrow. And what that does is it gives that channel there, and I'm going to try and add that to my, well, I won't add it to my other page. I'll actually pop this in so it's there. There's that option to add patterns inside, perhaps. Just going to add some perks in here. These sort of squashed circles that are stacked one behind another. So I haven't actually done that on my sheet, but that's quite nice. Or it could be any other pattern. You know, if you've been watching me, you know that Shattuck is one of my favourites for filling in spaces with lines. I looked at this and I chose to start at the bottom and work my way up, because I knew there'd come a point where a line touched this corner and it would help me work out what to do in this strange shape. And I think that's a good approach for tangle patterns like that, when you're filling borders and ribbons in that aren't a natural straight line. So that's interesting. I like that. There we are. So I'm glad I'm redrawing them, because I'd filled the page in. The other thing I did was, semicircle. Well, let's have a different shape there. So I've got a rather uneven shaped leaf, but that's quite nice. I also like just leaving these with just a couple of auras there. There's a lot of space here then to do other things with, which interests me. I've sort of done this but haven't. It's sort of like it almost lends itself to having crescent moons there, perhaps, as if it's tucked underneath. And we've got this band holding it in place, so that's quite nice, and it would work with other shapes as well. Okay, so something else that I looked at was actually putting the starting shapes at the top and the bottom. And auraing them like this. And on one side, I'm going to keep these lines all parallel, but I'll do something different on the other side, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to widen the gap here. Try and keep this one quite narrow, but I'm going to essentially gradually change the shape that is auraed here. And that was quite a fun exploration. I've done it here. So it's the same but different, which is fun. Okay. Other variations that I did involved, instead of putting the shape at the corners, is let's pop one right in the middle. But anywhere within this space works. It makes it interesting when it's off to the side. So we've got one there, and I'll do another one where perhaps I have this away from the centre. This time I'm going to have lines shooting off that way, and that then can lead to all kinds of things. One thing I've done is this, I can't remember what this is called. Is it Aruka? I think it might be, where you aura one line and draw lines parallel and you get this woven effect. Another one that I did is just to weave in a rush or hurry style, isn't it? It's called hurry. This back and forth. I also did a kind of, I'm not sure whether this would be analogous to Diva Dance or whether it's a version of Thomas Padgett's tabs. Either way, it's fun. But the bigger the space you have, the more chance you have of getting things in, and I'll leave one blank. So these are some of the variations I've done, as well as having this bit at the top, I also popped it to the side. I'm not very good at drawing level lines today, as in at 90 degrees to this, but you get the idea. So this is quite fun, and what I'm going to do here is I'll just do one set of verrucas. So you have a look. So yeah, so I've got these. I did use a heart with some, which creates these interesting shapes. Using an aura around the shape is fun. This one was nice. I'll do that one because this one leads to another pattern I did, or another variation I did elsewhere, is to have, in this case, 4 of them, though, like so. And then what I'm going to do is start auraing one of them, stop, then go to do the same with this one. Perhaps I'll do 2 auras the same as the other one, and then I'm going to alternate them. And this then is like the tangle pattern X, I think is what it's called. I seem to remember this one. And you sort of weave these shapes one into the other, and you can carry on for as much space as you have, or until you get a pleasing effect like this. So that is quite interesting to me. What others? Okay, circles give you a lot more space to play with. If you think about it, a leaf shape is, you've just cut away some art, some outside bits of the circle. So one I did was where I put 3 in here. And this is where the fun sort of begins, because I didn't do this in my original one, but just as a help, you could put pencil lines in the center of them, from the center of these where they join somewhere in the middle of the circle, and that will help in placing these lines, because I'm going to create a shape in the middle. And then what happens next? Well, anything you like. In my case, I'm just going to aura them. And then I think this is one I didn't do, but I've got these shapes here that I can make use of. So let's pop another one of these in, and let's do another layer of the original kind of idea. Doubly aura them. And that definitely is not on my other sheets, but that's quite fun. I like that one. You've got one thing above another, so that's going to be fun to play with in terms of layers. Another one I did. Oh, let me show you this one. It's a leaf shape again, because this was interesting in its way. Because what I did was I did do an aura. Then I started from the outside of this to the bottom, so it creates this kind of aura. So instead of having these lines going down the center, I started at the edge and went, yeah, you get the idea. And then do it in the form of verruca. And I think that's what this kind of pattern is called. And then you get that interesting kind of weaving going on, which is a lot of fun. The circle, or circle-ish. I'm going to pop this here. A distinct line like that, and then it's again, it's a ruka. But this, and you get that lovely weaving going on. I did actually sort of like extend this, and I created this one where I put 4 there and 1 in the center, and that creates something really complicated and lovely, and I think it would be great if it was done even bigger, even as a huge center in a Zentangle perhaps, I don't know, or mandala. It's fun. Okie dokes, let's have a look at a couple of others that I did. Oh yeah, it's this idea of having something perhaps in the middle. Let's pop a circle in there, and I'm going to aura this one. Oh gosh, I forgot to do that one. But that's fine, it's what it is now. And just leave it like that, or to do any of the other things that we've been doing, really. Okie dokes. So there's those there. So those were fun. Squares are really interesting. Oh, yeah, sorry, we do one other thing in the circle. Is I started with a, in this case I'm going to start with a little rectangle. And I think in this one I'm just going to leave it like that. I'll show you why in a moment. I'll show you the original one. I'll add another one, aura it, and then start to aura all of it, and perhaps do another one, but then I can add another, aura that one. Not worrying too much about whether the steps are complete or not. It's a judgment call whether you create a step. This one, I think I'm just going to start there, and so on. So that creates an interesting kind of layering pattern. And in my original version, I say my original version, the version I drew not too long ago, I actually auraed on this side, so it looks like there's the circle is holding this pattern. But here, compare it, this looks like it's the top layer, and we're gradually going further and further away. So this one, this is the whole top layer, this is further away, this is further away, and this is further away, still more further away. I did the same kind of thing with some circles and, you know, sort of like centrally, so you get half of the shape patterned as it goes on. So that was quite a lot of fun. Using squares within squares is actually quite interesting because you get these distinct shapes. I'll come back to that. I'll show you. So if I pop a square in here, again, I'm going to just do the aura on one side like that, and then I'm going to repeat this as much as I can. And then you get these places where you've got these corners sort of like nesting one into another, and they're great for adding shadow or leaving as highlights to get a sense of folding, space folding, even though it's not folded. So those are quite fun to do. And of course you can create this in any of these. You know, if I take a leaf shape again, let's pop a square on this side. Then so that's about halfway across. I've stopped where these lines started at the top and bottom points. And again, we've got these very distinct shapes. There's no point me going on any further really, because I'm not going to be able to get those shapes in. I just have straight lines, so I've decided to leave it as it is. So those are quite fun. Yeah, squares are really interesting. There's a square and there's another squarish shape. You could put these on a side. You could have them opposing, and I think two opposite each other will give a lovely opportunity for creating patterns. And if they're central, it's a lot easier to create that kind of pattern. And of course, you can just, and I've got no idea whether these are tangle patterns already or not. There's so many of them. You only need to go to tanglepatterns.com and suddenly you feel overwhelmed by the number of patterns that are there. And they don't have every single pattern that's been created either. It's bonkers in a lovely way. So these are interesting and fun. Obviously we could pop them off center. This will be challenging because I haven't got this on my original, on my first sheet of the day. Isn't it funny how some patterns lend themselves so easily to variations and others are just a little bit on the tricky side? So that is quite nice, and that could be done in other shapes as well. These are variations I haven't approached on the first sheet, so I'm glad I did a second one. Sometimes I prefer to put these lines in before I draw these auras, especially if they're going at a strange direction, because it's easier then to work out how they belong there. So I didn't do that, so that's quite nice. Actually, that is quite nice. And anywhere around the side, you know, from the middle right up to the top, you can pop them. So those are the oh, the other one for a square is to pop our starting dark shape in a corner, and again I'm going to draw from this corner, aiming just to the other side of this one in order to pop the first of these in. So you can split the square up like that, and there are all kinds of possibilities for this. This is one I didn't do on my other sheets, but is to look at putting a border in side, and then we've got that opportunity perhaps for a kind of a weird kind of arucas, I suppose. Getting this space a little bit smaller, and then we can do things in there. That's actually quite an interesting one. I like that. I'm glad I'm doing this. Okay, so if I go back to squares, oh, the other one with the square is, yeah, I'll show, is for these shapes on four sides. Of course, you can put them in four corners, and I accidentally overlapped them here. I didn't, as in I drew the lines over each other, so I just created a black space there, which is fine. But you can join them sort of like that. But we've got that one, but I've just realised there's another version, which is where we get these in the corners. Now I'm going to draw some pencil lines in to help guide me, and I think that's a good thing to do. Because drawing these shapes in isn't always that easy if you want to leave that gap in the middle, but having those pencil lines just helps, just a tad. So we've got this, and be the same idea if we pop them symmetrically in the corners, or we could have them slightly skew-if. Oh, this is going to test my patience. Okay, so if I had one here, I'd want one over here, and then we'd have one here and one down there. So we put out the wonky cross in first, then pop these in next, and then that pencil cross is what is going to help with creating these shapes, except I didn't put an aura around the black blobs, but that's okay because I will do it on the next one. Excuse me. Oh, sneezing. I do apologise. There we go. So that's a different one. Could make an interesting pattern using a reticulum. I'm thinking my mind is going to tessellations, because that's essentially what you're doing, is you're creating a tiled pattern. So that's another interesting one. Okay, other shapes. Well, triangles, what you can do in a square, what you can do in a circle, what you can do in a leaf shape, you can do in a triangle. But what is the most interesting ones? So I've got quite a few here. If I do the original kind of one, again, that splits this space up quite nicely. Part of me thinks it's quite nice to put that inner border in, and that gives that opportunity here to fill these in with pattern, or simply with another aura and then a black shape as if it's underneath. So I'm going to pop some tipple on one side. Very messy, because I'm doing this very quickly. And I'll leave the other side blank, and you can see there. What I would do as well is I'd think about thickening the lines. So by thickening the lines, you can get a sense of volume that way, because where the lines are thicker, it suggests a shadow and it suggests dimension. So that works quite nicely, I think. Okie dokes. So that's one variant. With a triangle, you've got, we could put that shape there, or we could put it on the side opposite the point. And let's have a look at this one. So that works nicely, and I'll do this in an Aruka's fashion. So that adds something a bit different into that mix. I found it quite interesting to use okay, how am I going to do this? just do this so it goes across the shape. So the triangle from one side to another in this fashion. And of course, we could have two of these joined this way. But that's possible from top to bottom, you know, from point to the opposite side as well. And what was an interesting, two interesting versions, or a couple more, is to have these here. And create them in that way. And again, anything I've done in the squares or triangles or circles or leaf shapes is possible here. Or to create that shape by auraing it's a lot easier if you draw the pencil lines in, you know, for these, but it works. Just colour those in a bit. So that would create an interesting pattern when they are put together in a reticulum, in a grid pattern, which is fun. And of course you can aruka them or continue to aura in those as much as you would like. What I also discovered with these, the other way, let's pop something in the middle, and this way, or pop that in the middle again. And divide the space up in that way. So that's an interesting one again. And then something I did work out with, I found of interest with these, hopefully you can still see, yeah, push it up, is instead of attaching this semicircle, this shape to the edge, is to leave a gap there and aura around it this way. With a square, I found it really interesting to have them just on opposite sides. And like this, and that would make really interesting patterns with rotations and so on. The first aura line, this line that you draw needs to be, in my opinion, level with the bottom of the semicircle. So that's quite an interesting one. And with that one as well, I did this. I only did it with a square. Again, I'm just making sure these lines, if I carried on, they'd join up with that bottom line smoothly. So you get that going on. Then what I did next was one of these random shapes, and I popped in one of these, and I thought, I've got a lot of space left there, so what would happen if I did this in as if I'm doing holly-bore. But instead of just having straight lines, we start the lines growing from what is the starting point of Naaki in this fragment. And of course you could aura these. As well, and you end up with something that's like an X version. And I'm going to aura that one, I'm going to aura this one, and I can draw lines across those so we have this holly-bore anchored to the Naaki kind of starting point. So I'm going to pop one up here, I'll aura it, and then have the lines going this way. And so on. So that was quite fun. Of course, this will happen in any kind of shape that you'd like it to happen in, which I thought was quite fun and quite intriguing. So, very quick run through of all of these. And I have 2 pages. Oh my God, I'm going to have to scan them in or something today. But some of these are repeats of these, others they've got more ideas on. Absolutely bonkers. 2 pages of Naaki variations. So let's have a look at some shadowing, because I will spend just a teeny tiny bit of time doing some shadowing on these. So I have a pencil, I've got a violet one which will do. The ones I want to do are the ones that have got interesting ways of doing this. So I'm putting shadow here on either side of, or in these little dips. Overlap there just a little bit. So I can just take a bit of that out. So that gives a really, really weird and wonderful structure to it, doesn't it? With others, which other ones did I say? This one, I'd be tempted to pop shadow along these. I'm not trying to get it into any particular sort of like shape, because I know I'm going to be spreading it out and just making sure that I've got enough just so that I can have it overlapping a little. And I do want to keep that top shape, that original aura, those 2 original aura lines, that space in between, as clear. This one, again, it's that kind of following these shapes in, I think, to bring out the way that this will seem to stand out then. Yeah, I'm going to add a little bit of shadow into the edge of it, because that helps with that that idea of highlight and shadow, yeah. Perhaps a little bit of shadow just up the edge there. So that is fun. This one's crazy. I'm not going to try because it's such a small area. That I'm not going to try. Not today, not here and now. Okay, others. I'm just going to pop some shadow on the outside of this to fill in, mainly to fill in this space, just to give this space that feeling that it's underneath. And I am going to add just a teeny tiny bit of shadowing to the edge there, so we have that feeling that we've got this bending upwards, perhaps a bit more around the edges. Stay. Talking to my pencil is making an escape roll. Trying to roll off my desk. There we go. So that's quite fun. And this one, I think I'd add shadow underneath. Just this side. Perhaps just a little bit there, just to help with that. Okay, what else? This one has got these shapes bending this way, so let's see what happens if I do the same kind of idea as I did here and pop shadow, or connect the points. With some shadow, and that creates a kind of folding that's going on there. Okay. All right. This single one, these ones remind me a lot of Ix. Did I say that? Did I do one where it was Ixy? Yes, this one, isn't it? So here it's going to be a case of adding shadows where these overlap. Just to set one slightly behind the other, and this way as well, I think. And just to help that, this one, oh gosh, we want some shadow along here, 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 because that will help to set this back from the top layer. And then we could have some underneath. We could. Done that one already. Oh, the original one. This is where it all started, isn't it? I think I'm going to pop that pastel line in here and just smooth it out that little bit. So it gives that kind of again, those kinds of ridges, that feeling of these being curved up and out, and these just dropping straight off. It helps to bring out that dimensionality. This one, I want these to appear as if they are behind this top layer. So shadow, go nicely there. This one, I am going to join the points and just gently smudge it out, avoiding the innermost space. Leave that uncoloured. This shape, right, space around these black shapes and connecting them. So there's that one. Crazy Times over here. I've done that one already on that sheet. Anywhere else? I think everything else is really more to do with personal preference and how things work in a grid. So here I'm just going to add some shadow in that one, and I'm going to do the same on the side that has the tipple because I can. And that helps, that you can see how much darker that side with tipple looks. Oh, these. Okay. Two ways of approaching this. This one, I'm going to work as if this side is further away than the other one. If I go to my original one here, I'll keep that one in view, hopefully. And with this one, I'm going to pop the shadow underneath here as if this one's behind. Just simple. And then you get two shapes that are very similar, but their patterns are identical, but how you add the shadow gives a completely different feel to them. So on this one, this area looks above this one, looks like it's higher than this one. It's the other way around here. And the same could be true for this one. So on this one, I'm going to pop some shadow along the edge. And with this one, I'll pop the shadow inside these. And again, if I try to pop them close together, hopefully you can see the difference between how they appear, how they feel. Personally, I prefer this one, but yeah, it's all good fun. Okay, let's have a look here. This one I am going to pop, because I could join corners like I've done here, but it gets really confusing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add quite a lot of chalk here. I'm going to keep the outside quite dark, but I'm going to move this as much as I can towards this, but having the darkest area the furthest away, so it feels that we are going further and further, and we're going darker and darker and deeper into whatever. These ones, I think I've done this already, but I'm going to do them anyway. The difference here is with the leaf shaped one, I've stopped the shadow where these stop. These I've taken right out to the edge. Okay. Yeah, this one. I've popped shadow underneath this central bar here, but underneath this aura here, keeping the lights. I tend to work mentally with light sources. Light with me is always coming from the top right, so this part would be in shadow because the light would hit here, and then the light would hit here, casting this in shadow. So putting the darkest shadow underneath, and that would just helps to set that one back. These, I am going to create them in a hole, well, one of them in a hole anyway. Just a little bit there. And the other one, add some shadow in the centre, because with any luck we may just get a sense that these are lifting up. Not entirely sure I'll manage it. We may need a little bit of help by putting shadow around the edge, not all the way around the edge, but just part of the way. So again, it's that idea that light's coming from this direction, it's going to hit this side, but this side will be in shadow. So that gives a different feel to that one. Again, it's the same if I do that with these is I'm going to pop shadow just about all the way around. I'm going to make it darkest at the top here. Just add a bit there. And with this one, I'm going to light coming from this direction, so it's going to hit this side, it's going to be light, but everything on this side is going to be in shadow. So let's have a look at that first. And this is a pattern. It sort of sets up a pattern of shadow, and then it's coming this way. This will be, the light will hit this, the light will hit along here, but along here will be in shadow, and perhaps just a little bit at the bottom there. So that gives a different feel again. So lots of ways of doing this. So I have got here an absolute plethora of patterns for Naaki. And for me, I think Naaki works so much better as a fragment than it did as a tangle pattern. It also helps in understanding the pattern, creating variations of the tangle pattern. But, ooh, where's my eraser there? Because that's all very much of a oneness in tone, that purple. So I can just use my eraser just to gently lighten some areas. And if I lighten too much, I can just add a little bit more at the base here and just, there we go. So that actually looks quite nice. This one, there we go. So much that can be done. So look here, there'll be a tiny bit of shadow on here, a lot more this side. Okay. So many options. I'm just going to be fussing and faffing around here. So I hope you've enjoyed this look at today's fragment, Naaki, for a version of Naaki, and that you will have a go for yourselves and perhaps try some of these variations out in your own drawings. If you do, let me know. Tag me in social media if you share it on social media, or if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you can always send me a private message to show me it if you don't want to show the world. So I'd love to see what people do. Hard to pick favourites here. I think the using hearts is quite cute. I didn't show you drawing that, but I think you get the idea. Choosing the shape of heart is important because you want one that's got quite a big dip at the top, I think, to get those lovely heart-shaped auras to begin with. They do become more and more smooth, but that's fine. This hollyball one was an interesting one, but they're all really quite interesting. So, 2 pages. So thank you for watching, thank you for joining me, and I'll try to remember to pop an image of both of them at the end of the video for you to have a good look at. I'll scan them in together. So yeah, I'm going to go scanning. So take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and find time to be creative. Until we see each other again, bye-bye for now. Bye.